Hey, I'm Weldon Weatherford with eXp Realty, and I got some news I wanted to go over with you today. Something historical just happened. It's been over 20 years since this situation has occurred, and I've been speaking something about it here in the past few podcasts about new construction. Basically, it's been really what's been primarily what's been driving the market. Well, that's created some imbalances even nationwide, where basically now existing homes are actually selling or for more than new construction homes, and primarily there's a couple reasons for that. Is basically people are sitting on their low mortgages, and home builders are now at a record pace as far as giving incentives to home buyers. So if you're looking to buy a new construction house, now is a really good time to be looking. I know a couple of builders here in town, Smith Douglas Homes, Adams Homes. I believe D.R. Horton does some incentives as well. But you're seeing anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 as far as builder incentives. And like I said, I think they just hit a record as well. And I'm gonna make if I have time, I'll go over that with you as well here in this podcast. That now up to I think 66% of all home builders are given some kind of major incentive nationwide. And to the point now that I think, as most buyers are almost expecting some kind of incentive. This actually becomes sort of a normalized thing. But I have an X post here, and I want to go over that with you and kind of show you the graph, and just so you can see. Like I said, it's a interesting phenomenon. It's only happened once 20 years ago. That was basically back in 2005, prior to the 2008 housing crash. So let's get to it. I'll show you here right now. It says something is seriously wrong here. For the first time in history, a new home in the U.S. costs $33,500 less than an existing home per reventure. Not even in June of 2005 saw such a large gap, right before the 2008 financial crisis. And what is happening, and of course it goes into explain. But you can see here on this chart, like I said, the existing homes have completely flipped here. Where you have new construction is now less. And it says it all stems back to March of 2020, when the Fed implemented their largest rate cut in history, and this led to an average rate of a 30-year mortgage falling to a record low of 2.65%. And it's never been a cheaper time in history to take out a loan or refinance your mortgage in 2021. And like I said, I remember distinctly that time period. That's really when things kind of started going crazy. When the rates got so low, it really created this home buyer frenzy. So there were a lot of home buyers during this time period. And then there were also a ton of refinances. So you can see right here where these rates, like I said, really for a long period of time, it was around that 3%, 2.5%, 3% mortgage rate range. And it says as a result, most Americans saw the mortgage rates drop well below 4%. In fact, 55% of homeowners now have rates below 4%, and 21% have rates below 3%. And this created the ultimate golden handcuffs moment. Again, like I said, I've spoke about this multiple times on several of our my monthly podcasts and monthly reports. I've written about it. Like I said, people are just not selling their homes. There's just not a lot of volume when it comes to resale. A lot of realtors are not doing a lot of business just because the volume's just simply not there, because people are really locked into their homes. And it says right here, you can't sell your home because you'll lose your mortgage rate. Common sense. And you can see right here where the bulk of the homeowners have, where their mortgages are actually under 3% of outstanding, outstanding mortgages. So, and then up here you can see, like I said, the bulk where the people have bought in the past several years. So, like I said, it's very low. And so again, this is what's locking in these existing homes. It says currently the average 30-year mortgage rate for a home purchase is up to 6.59%. If you currently own a home with a 3% mortgage and want to move to a new home, your rate will more than double. And it says the result, a heavily skewed housing inventory situation. And you can see from this chart, like I said, the mortgage rates way down here to way up here. And it says the fact a record 1 out of 3 homes for sale is now a new house. Again, goes what I've been saying all along. Everything is pretty much new construction driven. Even here in Wayne County, it's been that way for a couple of years now. It says by comparison, after the 2008 financial crisis, 1 out of 20 homes for sale was a new home. So in just 4 years ago, only 16% were new construction. But now this is like for many buyers, new homes are their only option. So like I said, if there's an area, you're moving into the area, you want to be in a certain school district. Sometimes there's just nothing to choose from. So you have to find a new construction neighborhood in that area. And, sometimes in some areas, new construction is your only option. And then, the bad thing about this is on top of this, housing affordability has hit a record low. In 2023, mortgage rates neared 8% for the first time since 2000. The Housing Affordability Index hit a record low of minus 90 points. And this means, or approximately 90 points, this means that the housing affordability has fallen over 50% since 2021. Of course, that's no surprise to anybody. Obviously, watching this, food prices, insurance, everything is going up. Taxes, everything is increased. Obviously, and then mortgage rates going up, and that just makes houses even, less affordable. It says now that affordability is at record lows, existing homeowners won't sell and new inventory is surging. And what are home builders doing? First, homes are getting smaller in the U.S. The median home size in the U.S. fell to 1,792 square feet in January of 2025. I just did some research a while ago, and I saw that in Wayne County, the approximate square footage is about 1,745 now. In 2019, it hit 1,991 square feet. So what builders are doing, essentially, take, for instance, Wayne County, that prime price point where most of your new construction sales are is in that like 270 to 315 price point, and you're simply going to have a very hard time hitting that at 1,991 square feet. So what builders have done is they've scaled back on their square footages, and to get in those prime ranges, depending on what area of the country they're selling in, obviously, it's going to be quite a bit more than 270, 300 once you get outside of Wayne County. But it's all relative. It says on top of this, home builders are buying down mortgage rates for consumers. Take a look at the screenshot below. Taylor Morrison is buying down rates by 100 plus basis points for home buyers. New home builders are desperate to get rid of this inventory glut. And like I said, there are a lot of builders are giving a lot of incentives. I will say there's not as big of an inventory glut here in Wayne County as there is in some of the other areas. I was talking to one of the builders down at Smith Douglas, and they have one neighborhood down here in Grantham, and those homes are actually moving fairly well, but they do not want homes sitting. They want them sold before, as soon as they're complete. They want a buyer to be closing on it. So what you're seeing is, the closer a home gets to construction, to completion, they're doing anywhere up to $20,000 to $30,000 in buyer incentives. And what that allows them to do, or you to do as a home buyer, allows you to buy down your mortgage rate. You can add extra options. You can upgrade your flooring. I mean, there's so many different things you can do. And then on homes that are sitting, once they're complete, you'll see even more incentives. I've seen incentives as much as $50,000, $60,000 on a completed home that hasn't sold and has, say, sat for 30 days. Because like I said, as long as that home is sitting there, it costs that builder carrying costs every month that it sits there. And like I said, some of these builders have 20, 30 neighborhoods. If they have 3 houses sitting in each neighborhood, well, they can have up to 100 homes, sitting at one time. So that's a situation they're trying to avoid. So that's why you're starting to see a lot of these incentives. For example, it says, take a look at this. Lennar sales incentives in 2024 hit as much as 15.9% of revenue in parts of the U.S., particularly in Texas. In the eastern United States, Lennar provided sales incentives equaling 10.7% of sales. This is not a normal market for home builders. Yeah, it's not normal for most builders to give as many incentives as they are. You typically will get the the usual. The lenders will pitch in some money here, and then they'll pay 2,000-3,000 in closing costs. The lender will pitch in another percent here, just to try to help you get in, with no money down if they can. But you're not, typically you don't see, $30,000, builder incentive off of the actual asking price. And it says in 2024, the price of a new home fell below the price of an existing home for the first time since 2005. Again, that's kind of what the main point of this whole post is. It says the gap only widened, which is setting up for an interesting next few months. As the Fed begins cutting rates, will we see this correct? And again, it's not exactly a foregone conclusion that the Fed is going to cut rates. I know Trump has been pushing Chairman Powell to reduce rates, but essentially, you got to really watch the 2-year Treasury, and it has been lower than the Fed rate, so there's a good possibility that they may cut. But essentially, all the Federal Reserve really does is it chases the 2-year Treasury around, and you can pull up a chart. I may do a video on that in the future just to kind of show how that really works. It's it's really smoke and mirrors, but essentially they just follow the 2-year Treasury rate around. And it says, are existing homes too expensive? Again, who's to say what's expensive and what's not? It's really, what a buyer is buyer and seller demand. If buyers need homes and there's none available or few available, well, it's going to push up the prices. But you can see right here, and this was back in 2005. It was very brief that new homes came down. And again, we're starting to see it here again. The question is, like you said, for how long? And he says, will the price of new homes simply come back up to the price of existing homes? Or will, existing home prices come back down? Again, there's no way to really know. Depends on the economy and the market. It says, regardless, history has shown that such a large shortfall between new and existing home prices cannot last. Yeah, obviously, you look at this chart, the majority of the time, it's what you would call normal. A new house should cost more than what a resale house costs simply because it's brand new. It's more modern. And again, he says the first rate cut of 2025 is coming in September. Again, everybody thinks it is, and it may happen, but again, that's going to depend on inflation. It's going to depend on employment reports, because they said this Federal Reserve is very data driven. If that data changes between now and the September meeting, we may not get that rate cut. And he says, lastly, delinquency rates outside of housing debt are skyrocketing. U.S. subprime auto loan 60-plus day delinquency rates jumped to 6.2% in December of 2024. If this spreads to housing, the implications will be huge. And again, yes, I have seen, and I've been watching that data and looking for foreclosures, because I do have a lot of investors that I work with as well. And obviously, and even my buyers, even my normal buyers, if there are opportunities to be taken advantage of, obviously, if we could get a better deal, I'm always going to be looking. Obviously, you can tell right now, not exactly the best time, because existing homes are selling for more than new construction. So it's an interesting time. Again, just wanted to go over this with you. I thought it was some interesting news. And again, if you are looking to maybe looking to purchase a new home or purchase a home, and you want to work with somebody who understands the market, the ins and the outs, especially if you're looking in and around Wayne County, Johnston County, Lenoir County, Wilson County. I'm very familiar with those markets. I grew up in this area. So if you are planning to relocate to this area or looking to move within the area, I've worked this market for over 26 years now. So like I said, I'd be glad to help you as well. Again, it's a free consultation. Just give me a call. My number is 919-921-2085. Again, that's 919-921-2085. And y'all have a great day. This video or live stream is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Any information that is given is my sole express opinion and in no way represents the views of eXp Realty, the National Association of Realtors, or the Goldsboro Wayne County Association of Realtors. Any information, advice, or opinions shared are not to be construed as forming any kind of agency representation or any agent client relationship. If you would like a more personal one on one consultation and agency representation, give me a call and I'll be glad to get that set up for you. No information given during any video or live stream should be taken as legal advice. If you have any legal questions, always seek the counsel of an attorney. Information for videos and live streams come from various sources. I in no way guarantee the accuracy of these sources. As always, do your due diligence and verify any and all information before acting upon anything you have seen or heard during a video or live stream.